finished our first year with our big garden, and overall I'm really happy with how it went. So I'm going to show you how I'm winterizing it. Hey friends, so I am cleaning up the garden for the winter. My family was out helping me earlier and I am going to finish up a couple of tasks. We finished our first year with our big garden, and overall I'm really happy with how it went. I definitely have room to improve, but I feel like for our first year it was a great learning experience. Grew a lot of our own food, and we're just going to keep getting better. So I'm going to show you how I'm winterizing it. So this bed has strawberries and garlic in it, and I had put some mulch on top, but my chickens kind of dug it up, so I need to get that back in. This is a lot of what I've already cleared out, and I'm going to put some of it on the garden to add nutrients back in and then cover with mulch, and then some of it I'm going to put in our compost bin. Over here is the asparagus, so I trimmed that down, and I'm probably going to put some mulch in this bed as well. Okay, these I had already covered with mulch and compost a while ago. I weed eated the grass because it was just really out of control in several of the beds, and then chopped down the can't think of what it's called at the moment the plants that were growing on the trellis. So for what I weed eated, I thought that would be an easier method than trying to pull it all by hand, and I'm going to cover it with cardboard and mulch for the winter. Cut down my zinnias or zinnias, I never know how to say it, and same with my pepper plants. Harvested the last few. My cover crop is doing really well over here. I didn't plant it in all the beds because I was still growing things in a lot of them, but hopefully that will help improve the soil where I got it planted. And oh my goodness, that light's beautiful. Yeah, same thing over here. I tried to kind of weed eat as much as I could, and then I'm going to cover that with cardboard and compost and mulch. Or cardboard and mulch, I'm out of compost. So I might use some of our chicken bedding and the big pile of mulch that we have to add some nutrients back in. I had read that that is a good thing to do online, so we'll try it, and then I'll have to update you all in the spring with how it goes. So as I mentioned before, I was really happy with how our garden went this year because it was my first year planning and growing and caring for a big garden. But there were definitely some things that did not go as well as I had hoped, and so I'm somebody who likes to look at the things that didn't go well and make changes to improve upon it for the next year. So here are 5 changes that I will be making for this next year in my garden. The first change that I'm going to make is to have more cardboard on hand. I use the no-till method in my garden where I lay cardboard directly on the weeds and then 6 inches of compost on top of it. This is a more affordable method of gardening, and it's also a way to improve the quality of your soil over time. But when the weeds start to pop up, you're supposed to lay more cardboard and compost. But the problem that I had is that I ran out of both of those things, and so I'd like to stock up over the winter at the beginning of the season and make sure that I not only have enough cardboard to lay down initially, but also a stockpile to pull from throughout the year as the weeds start to pop up. Going along with this, the second thing is that I want to keep up with my personal compost pile so that I constantly have compost on hand that I can add back to the garden. We spent quite a bit of money on having compost delivered this year, but my goal is over time to be able to produce the compost that we need for our garden by using yard waste and kitchen waste to create our own, and also chicken bedding. The third change that I want to make is to make gardening a daily part of my routine instead of just trying to fit it in. So I am a mom with young kids, and I was adjusting to having 2 little ones this year and found that it was kind of difficult to find time. I had some things in the garden that just got really out of hand, especially the weeds or keeping up with harvesting. And I want to give myself grace, but I also want to try to find a way to make this a part of my daily routine instead of having it get so bad that I have to spend my entire weekend pulling weeds. So I think trying, now that my kids are a little bit older, making it a part of our daily routine, even just spending 10 or 15 minutes pulling weeds, allowing them to play outside while I work on that, really making that a part of our daily rhythm and routine, I think will help this not be such a big task when things get really out of hand. The next change that I want to make is to grow less, but to grow it better. So I set out with very ambitious goals to grow all of our produce, at least vegetables, this year, and I'm a very new gardener. So I think I was focusing on so many things that some of my crops that I was really hoping for did not get very much attention, and they didn't do very well. So for example, I really wanted to have tomatoes to make our own sauces from, and I did not have a good tomato harvest this year. I think I planted 10 to 15 different tomato plants. First of all, I tried starting them from seed, and we have some temperature issues in our house, at least where I put them. And so they came up fine, but then they were starting to die off after a couple of weeks. And so if you have any tips for this, I would love to hear your advice in the comments below. This is something I'm going to work on next year. But anyway, I ended up buying some starts for my tomato plants. I think I spent $100 just in tomato plants, and they didn't do very well. They produced a lot of flowers but did not have a lot of fruit, and it was just kind of frustrating because I had spent so much time on it. So I think next year I would maybe just plant 5 or 6 tomato plants instead of trying to do 15 and really take the time to care for those, because I think I would get more tomatoes doing it that way than I did this year with 15. If you are someone who is new to gardening, I encourage you to learn from my mistake and don't let this desire to grow everything all at once keep you from starting. Maybe just start with 1 or 2 plants and see how that goes and get really good at that, and then gradually add to it. I am really glad that I tried doing so many things, but I do think it was a bit much for my first year, and so I might try to scale back some of those crops and hopefully have a better return from it later in the season. And the last change that I want to make for this next year is to actually plan and plant a fall garden. I had intentions of doing this, but the weeds just got too out of control, and so I didn't have a place to plant because I was trying to get rid of the weeds. So I'm hoping if I am able to stay on top of the weeds more next year, that I will be able to plant things like pumpkins and squashes and actually see a good return from it. Bye-bye. So we're laying cardboard on the beds that have a lot of weeds, and then I'll top with mulch. And then I had some bigger plants like okra and some of the tomatoes that, because I'm doing no-till, I cut it off close to the ground, and I'm going to leave the roots below the surface. I read that this is helpful for improving the quality of the soil. It adds nutrients back in, and it helps break it up a little bit because of the root system. Starting a garden has been such a positive experience for both me and my family. It's brought us together, and there's nothing quite like harvesting food, preparing it, and then cooking a meal, enjoying it around the table with people you love if you grew that food yourself. If you're wanting to start homesteading or want to start a garden right where you are, I created a resource called the new Homesteader's Handbook to walk you through how to do this. It will teach you how to preserve food, plan and plant a garden, compost, cook from scratch, buy bulk food, mill your own flour, and even begin baking with sourdough. I have put a link to this in the description box below and hope it's helpful to you as you begin learning and start on your own journey. So right now I am laying cardboard, and then I'm topping it with chicken bedding and manure and some mulch. So I'm going to mix that together. Hopefully it'll help control some weeds. And I don't think I'll get the entire garden done because I'm only like a third of the way done, and we're running out of cardboard. So I'll just make the most of what I have, and then later in the winter I'll add some more cardboard and probably have to add compost and mulch as well.